Hello students, welcome to InstaOwl's English class, where we believe in democratizing education for all. Students, picture this. A school has recorded attendance data for 2 months. In January, 85% of students were present regularly. In February, it dropped to 68%. Now, instead of just showing these numbers, imagine writing, student attendance saw a sharp decline in February, possibly due to student illness or exam stress. That's the power of analytical paragraph. It takes raw data and turns it into a meaningful story. In this session, we'll learn how to read between the numbers and write observations that connect, compare, and conclude with clarity. An analytical paragraph is a special kind of writing. It is a text, usually about 7 to 10 sentences, created with the purpose of developing a single idea clearly and thoughtfully. This means instead of talking about many different things at once, we focus just on one central point and explain it with logic, examples, and evidence. We use this kind of paragraph often in subjects like English, social science, or even science. Wherever necessary, we present our viewpoint in a structured and convincing way. When we combine a paragraph with careful analysis, we get an analytical paragraph. Simply put, it is a written text based on the analysis of the subject, where you explore and explain details about a given topic or data, rather than just stating facts. Moving on to the marking scheme of an analytical paragraph. The marking scheme of an analytical paragraph helps us understand how our writing will be assessed. Usually, the content is expected in 100 to 120 words. This content is graded based on these key areas: content, which carries 3 marks, expression with 2 marks, and within expression, grammatical accuracy and spellings account for 1 mark, while logical progression and relevant ideas earn another 1 mark. This scheme reminds us to focus on not just on what we write, but how clearly and accurately we express our ideas. Now, having understood the marking, let's see the kind of data you may need to work with. You may get data in the form of tables presenting information on different facilities available in rural and urban areas. For example, a table might show percentages of households with electricity, tap water, television, and vehicle ownership across rural and urban sectors. Such tabular representation helps us clearly compare the availability of these facilities between regions. Understanding how to analyze and describe these tables is vital for writing an effective analytical paragraph. Apart from tables, you may also be given a bar chart that shows comparison over time or between categories. For example, a bar chart could display state population rate for different states like Maharashtra, Uttar Pradesh, and Gujarat over several years. Bar charts make it easy to visually compare quantities and observe trends, which you would describe clearly in your paragraph. Another common form of data is the line graph, which displays changes over time or across groups. For example, a line graph might show player scores in a series of matches for players like Rohit, Virat, Sanju, and Rinku. Line graphs highlight trends and fluctuations that can be analyzed and explained in your writing to provide insights into the data. You may also encounter a pie chart, which shows proportions of a whole, such as sales percentages among different individuals like Anurag, Rahul, Dipesh, and Shubham. Pie charts help to understand how a total is divided among parts and what your task will be to interpret these divisions clearly and accurately. Students, to better understand analytical writing, it's important to recognize the difference between paragraph writing and analytical paragraph writing. A simple paragraph can be written on any topic and usually consists of several sentences focused on a single subject. In contrast, an analytical paragraph studies and complies to a given set of data and visual stimulus to frame it into a paragraph. It presents the specific data clearly and concisely, summarizing facts in a precise, simple, and crisp manner. Let's move on to the features of an analytical paragraph. It includes describing given charts, tables, data, graphs, or cues. It should be brief and comprehensive, including complete information at the same time. The paragraph must state facts provided by the chart, avoid unnecessary personal opinions, and use simple, comparative, and accurate language. Mentioning figures and quantities appropriately is also important to support your analysis. Finally, writing an analytical paragraph is an art of interpreting, analyzing, and writing the given data in a comparative and reportive manner. It is advisable to use the same tense throughout to maintain consistency. Also, avoid personal observations or responses and prefer to use the passive form of the verb where suitable to make your writing objective and formal. With the introduction in place, let's understand how to build the entire paragraph step by step. The format of an analytical paragraph is essential to organize your writing effectively. It acts like a blueprint, guiding you to start with introduction, follow up with key observations from the data and comparisons or analysis, and then end with a conclusion. Thus, the content of the paragraph must include the following three parts, that is, your introduction, body of the paragraph, and conclusion. First, the introduction, where you explain in 1 or 2 lines the context of what is clearly evident from the chart or graph. Next is the body of the paragraph, which requires you to explain in detail the figures and trends, making comparisons and contrasts. These 2 parts help frame your analysis logically and clearly. Following the introduction and body, the final part is the conclusion. This part should give the overall view or summary of the chart or graph, drawing a simple conclusion from the data you have presented. It is important to note that the topic sentence establishes a guideline for what the paragraph is going to be about, setting the tone for your entire analysis. Now that we know what kind of data we might receive, let's talk about how to begin writing. When writing the introduction of an analytical paragraph, remember that it acts as the topic sentence and describes in brief about the graph. You should not go into the details at this stage. Keep it limited to 1 or 2 lines. Some useful suggestive opening lines include phrases like "the chart given above describes," "the table suggests," "the line graph shows," or "the pie chart illustrates." These lines set the stage for the detailed analysis to follow. Once the format is clear, it's time to focus on the most detailed section of your writing, the body of the paragraph. The body contains the core details of the analysis. This part should include all the important information and significant details related to the infographic provided. It requires organizing information, comparing information, and connecting sentences smoothly. To do this effectively, you should elaborate the trends in detail, illustrate the trends using data, and compare and contrast the data. This creates a comprehensive and insightful description for the reader. Moving on to the next key point. When describing trends in your paragraph, certain handy phrases for describing trends can make your writing more effective. You might say, "There has been a gradual increase in blank," or "a pattern of growth in blank can be seen." Other useful expressions include, "There is a striking increase in blank," "increased to a peak or its maximum or its highest number," "the number or rate of blank is starting to fall or decline," and "the rate is expected to decline by or will probably decline." Using these phrases help clearly communicate the nature of changes in data. We have more handy phrases to explain causes and results within your analytical paragraph. You can use phrases like "this may lead to so on," "it may cause blank," "this is a problem stemming from or caused by blank," and "it can give rise to blank." These expressions help link the data trends to their possible reasons or consequences, enriching the analysis. Further on, for making comparisons or highlighting differences, use handy phrases for establishing a relationship or contrast, such as "in contrast with," "in comparison to," "as opposed to," or "but in the opposite case." You can also mention "striking or notable or noticeable difference can be seen," or even similarly, and when it comes to. These phrases assist in connecting ideas and showing relationship between different data points. To complete your analytical paragraph with clarity, the final touch is just as important as the beginning. Thus, in the conclusion of your analytical paragraph, the last part should summarize the idea mentioned and the important information in general. It should be concluding in nature and act as the closing statement. Your conclusion gives an overall view or summary of the graph and draws a simple conclusion from the data. This final part brings closure to your analysis and leaves the reader with a clear understanding. Here's one tip that can make your writing flow smoothly from start to finish. To help connect your thoughts and create smooth transitions, use concluding and connecting phrases such as overall, subsequently, in a nutshell, and therefore. These phrases guide the reader through your reasoning and support the logical flow of your paragraph. Finally, here are some important points to remember when writing an analytical paragraph. Always look for prominent differences and changes in the data, and ensure your paragraph has a clear introductory line. Try to include all the information presented in the chart or graph. Pay attention to the range of vocabulary by avoiding spelling mistakes, using different verbs and nouns, and incorporating a variety of adjectives and adverbs. If the line graph contains many lines and shows a lot of movement, be selective and focus on the most important trends to keep your writing clear and concise. In writing an analytical paragraph, there are key features you should keep in mind. Firstly, you must organize your paragraph logically so that it is easy for the examiner to read. This means your ideas should flow smoothly from one to the next, making your analysis coherent. Also remember that you are being marked on your ability to select what's most relevant and important information from the data provided, which shows your understanding and judgment. Now, let's look at a practice exercise to apply what we have learned. The question asks, the given chart shows the division of household tasks by gender in Great Britain. Write an analytical paragraph describing the chart in not more than 100 to 120 words. This exercise will help you understand how to interpret data and present it effectively in an analytical paragraph. Here's the chart for the exercise titled Division of Household Tasks by Gender in Great Britain. It shows various household tasks such as cooking, cleaning, gardening, and caring for children, with separate data for males and females measured in hours per person per day. This visual representation allows us to compare the time spent by each gender on these tasks. Let's now look closely at the bar graph and analyze it further. This graph clearly reveals that females spend significantly more time on certain tasks than their male counterparts. Starting with cooking, baking, and washing up. Women dedicate 9 hours per week to this task, while men contribute only 2 hours, showing a large gap in time spent. In contrast, when it comes to cleaning the house and tidying up, men actually take the lead, spending 8 hours, whereas women only spend 3 hours. This is the only category where the male contribution is noticeably higher. Moving on to gardening and pet care. Females spend 4 hours, while males spend just 2 hours, indicating a moderate difference. Lastly, in the category of care for our own children and playtime, women again lead by investing 5 hours compared to men's 3 hours per week. Overall, this data shows a gender distribution of responsibilities, with women spending more time on food-related and childcare tasks, while men take up slightly more responsibility in household cleaning. The graph highlights both overlaps and contrasts in how domestic duties are shared between genders in Great Britain. Students, let's bring this chapter to a close by switching on the Insta lights. To conclude, remember, writing an analytical paragraph involves moving from non-verbal to verbal by interpreting charts, tables, and data. It is a form of descriptive paragraph writing that requires careful observation and reflects a writer's critical thinking and organizational writing skills. Your paragraph should require analysis and comparisons of the data, transforming visual information into clear, written explanations. Students, that's all for today. We hope you had a great time learning and growing with InstaOwl. Stay tuned and curious for more such information. Bye.